Hello. This week we're going to talk about information literacy and instruction. What is information literacy? It's basically a whole package of skills that a student needs. ALA says that to be information literate, a person must be able to recognize when information is needed and have the ability to locate, evaluate, and use effectively the needed information. I think that's a awkwardly worded statement, but it conveys what to be information literate is. Lanning and Bryan saying the ability to recognize when information is needed, locate, evaluate, and use information efficiently. You see those elements again. Efficiently, effectively, and ethically helps you become an independent, lifelong learner. So this group of skills, which include access, interpretation, evaluation, and other skills, are part of information literacy. Access, what's available and how to use it. Interpretation, how to read what you find. It can include things like interpreting statistics or knowing the conventions and language of a field. Evaluation, we've talked about website evaluation, database evaluation, reference evaluation. But you also need to be aware that just because it's in print does not make it right. Interesting, sometimes I like to read the New York Times, the corrections at the front of the paper or the front of a magazine. They'll put in corrections from the month before, the day before, and just to let you know kind of that everything you read is not always correct. Just because it's in print and it's been looked at by an editor doesn't always mean that they get it right the first time. So students need to learn how to become information literate in order to manage in a world of information overload. And there's multiple points at which this instruction can be introduced and reinforced. One point is during the reference transaction, when if you have time, you can guide students through the research process and the skills necessary for becoming information literate, including all of these things: access, interpretation, evaluation, identifying which of these skills, helping these students create their skills and become fluent in these skills. It's always a balancing act. I think we talked about this during the reference transaction. Could I show them how to use it or just give them the information? Obviously, it depends on what else is going on. If you're doing a reference interview and you just need to get the information to them because you've got 15 other people that you have to help, maybe that's not the best time to do that. Although you are showing them, if you don't just give it to them, but even just have them watch what you do, you're modeling, which is teaching them. And at other times, specific lessons can be implemented to develop these skills. I'm going to talk in particular, when it comes to information skills, about ISP and the Big Six. ISP for kind of understanding where people are in their skills, in the process, and Big Six for actually conducting lessons. But I wanted to talk a little bit about access and organizational schemes. We all use organizational schemes at home and at work. Even a pile of dirty clothes on the floor is an organizational scheme. What fits, what belongs together, that's my notes. My husband and I, when we packed different ways and we organize differently. He organizes according to what fits in a box. It doesn't matter. When we moved the last time, I had things from the kitchen, things from the bedroom, things from the living room, because they fit in that particular box. I like to pack by things that go together. I only wanted kitchen things in my kitchen boxes so that when they got to the kitchen and I was taking them apart, unpacking, I was putting things away in the kitchen. But we all have our own organizational schemes. Students need to learn that there are different organizational schemes and that they need what kind of organization schemes exist in their resources and how to use them. There's hierarchies such as table of contents, could be alphabetical, could be by type, could be hierarchical like table of contents, indexes, There's all different kinds of organizational schemes in the databases. You saw how in the databases different ones are organized differently and you approach them differently. So students need to practice enough accessing different types of information, whether they be old-fashioned reference books and encyclopedias, dictionaries. So one of the reasons why I still like having a print dictionary, the idea of a print dictionary, so that students can practice looking up things alphabetically. I know we don't need that as often, but it's not a skill I think that should be completely let go. They need to understand if you have your books by Dewey system, they need to understand that Dewey brings together subjects that are similar. So they need to kind of understand the different types of organizational schemes in the library. And I talked a little bit about relevance. Could be how a database is determining relevancy, precision versus recall. When we looked at different results on Google, you could see that Google sometimes decides that something that you don't think is relevant should belong in there. We've asked, some of you have reported in your reference journals that Google returned something that made no sense to you at all. And they have an algorithm behind their returns, as do databases. I know that I use Dropbox, which is a cloud-based storage system, and I tried to search sometimes, and I know I have a folder named this, and I put it in, and it doesn't come up. So everybody has their own algorithms that sometimes Dropbox gives me recall because it gives me a ton of stuff that it thinks I might want and be asking for, versus precision where it only gives me one or two things. So students need to kind of practice with these organizational schemes. Even the youngest students, just understanding that books are separated in your library into fiction and nonfiction, or genres, if that's how your library is organized. This is part of information literacy, is learning to understand the way the library is organized and understand how to access material. So I want to talk about ISP, which you had read about Carol Kuthlau, and you're going to read again. I believe I assigned another article to you this week by Carol Kuthlau, where she looks at information seeking as part of a series of encounters with information, and she looks at it as a process across a research paper, basically. She looks at it making sense-making in a personal frame of reference, developing new understandings, making a presentation to share that new knowledge that you get. She wanted to understand more than just the actions, the step we take to find the information and the material used during research for a paper or assignment. And she worked with, I believe, high school and college students. So she wanted to not just watch the process steps that they took, but to understand how students were feeling during this process and their thoughts about the process and the content of the information they found. So it's a holistic view of information use and knowledge building. So kind of ISP bridges the gap, kind of bridges from information seeking that we were talking about to information literacy. I find it kind of straddles the two topics. So she talks about these particular processes. And if you think back even just to the paper that you've just turned in, I'm sure you can recognize some of these emotions, some of the affects that you had while you were doing this paper. So in the initiation of the paper, you get the instruction sheets and the directions for doing whatever paper it is, and you feel uncertain, you're apprehensive about what you have to do, you know you need information, you're going to discuss possible topics. If you think about, we talked about what your question would be. So there's this kind of beginning of it. Then you go to selection, where you select a topic. Uncertainty kind of changes to optimism once you said, okay, I figured out what I'm going to do. I'm going to start making some searches. I'm finding some information. So we're getting a little more confident. And then comes the next stage where you go back a step. During exploration, where you're gathering more information, you often become confused again, uncertain. You investigate and add more personal knowledge about the topic, but sometimes you're confused about what's needed. You might need to go back and locate more information. You're doing some reading. You always have to, in order to create new knowledge, you need to link to what knowledge you already have and add to that, but it can be a little bit disconcerting. Then, okay, we've done a lot of research, and we're getting more clarity as we read more about our topic. And we're selecting ideas in terms of where we're going to go. If you think about when you were doing your gathering articles about the reference interview, focusing the perspective of how you're going to write your paper, and here you're really constructing knowledge, and your confidence increases because you're pulling it all together. She calls the next stage collection, which I find a little confusing, but it's the most focused interaction with the system. Your interest in the project deepens, your searching and query information improves, you're defining, extending, and supporting the focus of your inquiry. And these stages are in the article I've given you to read, talking more about what's involved in each of these stages. I'm just giving you a brief overview. But this is when you're actually, and this is why she calls it collection, this is when you're actually getting even more information, and based on your confidence increasing in the clarity with the topic, you are able to go back and do those final searches to find the last bits of information before you put it all together to do your presentation. And presentation, you get a sense of relief if you're presenting it, and presenting can mean PowerPoint, oral presentation, paper. You are putting it all together, the topics coming together. This is where really you're preparing to share your new knowledge with other people. And of course, you're done with all that hard work, and so there's a sense of relief. So if you see, she connects each of these with confidence, and if you think, with your feelings, and if you think back to the roller coaster that is probably every assignment you've ever done, you can identify with how you felt, and you can see how your students might feel during these points within their process of doing research and constructing a project, paper, presentation, where they need to go from basically nothing to constructing new knowledge and sharing it. So one way to teach information literacy and teach some of these particular skills that you need to develop for information literacy is through the Big Six. There's many ways, but the Big Six breaks it down in a way to go along with the ISP, which is why I present them together. So with the Big Six, you have task definition, where you define the problem and identify information need, which is the initiation, basically. And defining the problem would be, what information do I need to do the project, and what am I going to do, and what do I need in order to do it. Information seeking strategies determine your sources and select the best sources. So you need to understand how to access your resources and select the best resources. You need to locate the sources and find information within the sources. And here is where also they would need to, in locating and finding information within the sources, sometimes you can help with note-taking, sometimes you can help with evaluation, you get that in here, and interpreting. When you are finding information within the sources, you need to understand how to access that information within the sources, and also how to interpret it. Then you need to engage with the information that you're using, extract relevant information. Again, note-taking, knowing how to read. Some people just don't know how to engage with databases. They may not understand what they're reading, how to differentiate different types of articles, how to get the information out of it. You can teach some strategies here, such as note-taking or using graphic organizers, or different ways to, with the Cornell method, which is a way of taking notes from things. And so that may be a good way to collaborate with teachers, in that when they bring the students to your class, you're not only helping them find resources. When you bring them to the library, you're not only helping them find resources, you're also helping them figure out how to use these resources, how to extract relevant information from the resources. Then there's synthesis, which you take information from multiple sources and present the results. So you have to, as you did with your reference interview paper, I asked you to have multiple articles, and you had to take information from different articles to use and present the result as part of the literature review, or as supporting arguments for your analysis of your reference interviews. Presenting the result may be as a diorama, it may be as a picture, it may be as a video. However they present the result, they're taking information from multiple sources and figuring out a way to synthesize it and present it. And then I like this step because it's a great way. It's evaluation not of sources, but of the work that they've done. So they need to judge the effectiveness of how they did their work and the process. So were their searches effective enough to give them the information to present the result, and were they happy with it? And judging the process, could they have done things better? So the next time you do research, have you learned from what you did this time to be more efficient the next time you go into the databases and use them better, take notes better, just increase the efficiency of the process. So actually, I'm going to give you the website for the Big Six, and they break it down into different, you can actually print these off of the website and put them in your library. So what's the task? What do I need? What are the possible sources? Which are the best? This is evaluation. It goes into website evaluation, and even what is the best for what I'm doing. It may be two good resources or multiple good resources, but they may not help you with what you're trying to accomplish. Location and access, where is it? Where is the information within the source? This is where, if they know how to use the library and how to use different resources, they can get through step 3 well. How can I best use each source, and what information in each source is useful? So this is getting to number 3 is getting to the sources, number 4 is really using it. They kind of go together. Synthesis, how can I organize the information? How can I present the result? You may be able to collaborate with your teachers in teaching the students how to present. Younger students might need to learn how to use PowerPoint or Prezi or video in order to present. You may be teaching them how to use the Apple iMovie or something like that. So there may be technology that you can help with them presenting the result, or it just may be they're doing it in a paper and you can help them with things like citation, because that's part of information literacy, is properly citing your sources. That's an ethical and efficient information use. The ethical use is making sure they know how to do citations, making sure when they're taking notes, going back to what information each source is useful. Part of that is the citation of the source. Making sure they know how to take notes so that they can differentiate between when they're using somebody's words or just paraphrasing. And then the evaluation, again, is the task completed and how can I do things better? So it's a nice, I like this flow of a project from beginning to end, and questions students can ask themselves to go through it. And they actually have a Super 3, which is taking collapsing the Big Six into just 3 steps. And so number one is plan at the beginning. Before they start doing anything, they should think, what am I supposed to do? What will it look like if I do a really good job? I like that question. And what do I need to find out to do the job? I like the question about what would it look like if I do a really good job, because it gets them thinking about how I want the end product to look, and that they want to do a good job. And it includes task definition and information seeking strategies. The middle, they do the activity. This is where they read, view, tell, make a picture. It's the location and access, the use of information, and the synthesis all together. So it's the three of the big 6 steps. And then review is the end. Before finishing the project and turning it in, students should stop and think, is it done? Did I do what I was supposed to do? This is a very important question. Because students often get started, and I've done this myself, where I start rolling along on a project and all of a sudden I go back and reread the directions and I'm like, I am going in the wrong direction. And so I will often reread instructions myself for example, when I turn in articles to journals and they have instructions for what they're looking for and how they want it presented, I will reread that over and over again to make sure that it aligns with what they're looking for. And when I was in, taking classes, is this what I was supposed to do? Do I feel okay about this? And should I do something else before I turn it in? This really does not have the full, it has a type of evaluation of what was done. I like the big 6 evaluation a little better, or a combination of the two. So basically they do beginning, middle, and end with the Super 3. And if you go to the Big 6 Skills website, you can see they have a lot more information about it and some reading to do on it. Not something that I'm necessarily promoting. I just think that it outlines the steps well for you to understand what they are. And here under the InfoWorm coloring pages are those pictures that I had on my slides. And there's other professional development, research, and lessons, articles, assignments. Oh, here's Super 3 dinosaurs. What is that? Okay, I like that. Planosaurus, Duosaurus, Reviewsaurus. So they also have these. So it does have some great resources for you if you want to use this as part of facilitating your information literacy instruction as you are either thinking about how you're going to help them during a reference interview, teaching them in the library, or collaborating with a teacher who is working on with them on some kind of research project, paper, somewhere where they have to understand how to manage information. And so that is the lecture for this week, and I will see you on the discussion board.